I believe we won the best opening title sequence at the World Animation Celebration in Burbank, or I'm sorry, it was in Hollywood, in 2001. The World Animation Celebration was hosted by Animation Magazine every year. I don't know if they still have it. And they started to give awards, and we won this award not even knowing that we were even up for it. We were very happy about it. Animation Magazine was set up and founded by the vice or the president of Klasky Chupo. We thought for sure a Klasky show would win. Everybody used to work at Klasky, or a lot of people used to work at Klasky that worked on Zim, and we hated it there. Megadoomer was an excellent show. The story was by Roman, and the boards by the Graham brothers. And Roman always had these fun little ideas like this. This was one of his best. I remember when I heard the premise. I think it was after I had just started on Zim after a few weeks, and that Roman was working. It was like, yes, this is an excellent idea. I thought Roman had just come up with one of the best little ideas ever. And I think this is still pretty much a fan favorite show. And we nearly won an Emmy for our storyboard artist, Chris Graham. He didn't win. Nobody won for individual achievement in 2002, but he was, by people's accounts that were in the judging panel, he was the one that would have won if there was anybody that would have won, but there was a stalemate. Again, another scene. All these TNT and guys cutting each other. Originally wanted to be cut out by New York after 9/11. I don't know how we ended up keeping it, but we did. The show was also done by Chow Lee Han overseas. He was our main animation director, so it was a really tight episode. Originally, this whole sequence was boarded by another board artist, David Crocker, and this was his last show of the second season. He didn't come back, or first season. He didn't come back for the second season, and he had done such a poor job on this that we had it redone all by Ian Graham after Dave had left. And I don't think one panel of his work exists anymore in this board. These are all Ian's shots. This was a great touch to use a William Shatner kind of delivery for this little alien. There's always sort of an undercurrent in Zim about menial labor. And you never see anybody doing anything but menial labor in Zim. Either menial labor or they're just loafing. Really nice sequences. You can see Ian tried. He put in that blurred foreground of the pavement. Thought it wouldn't work. He thought he would need to animate the pavement. I told him just put a blur on it. It worked quite well. It was great also seeing this episode, like just the interaction of Zim with the world, like he's dealing with this child. We didn't get a lot of this later on, and this is the sort of stuff that we really were missing in the second season, particularly. But the story's idea for this was so simple. It was wonderful. It was a great idea for 11 minutes. It was this: Zim gets a giant robot, and it doesn't work. He has to plug it in every few feet that it walks. And here's a robot he probably could conquer the world with, but all he's going to do with the robot is kill Dib. So it's just great. Everything about this episode is very Zim, the idea and all. And it was such a simple premise that you could just spend more time dealing with Zim and his world. Zim dealing with the world. Zim trying to figure things out. Now, there were a few scenes cut in this. These scenes with 10. 10 was supposed to be having a lot more problems with these little sirs. I think this section was actually intact. But later on, when we come back to her at the end, there was a bomb that was supposed to blow up. We had to cut a lot of stuff out of that later sequence. I forget if it was even animated, but this is now Chris Graham's stuff, almost up till the end. Really beautiful. They did a great job. He did a great job just doing compositions alone, which was something I always tried to impress into the storyboard crew, was get the compositions looking great. And a lot of people have mentioned to us that you can almost take any frame of Zim, or most frames out of Zim, almost every scene, and just stopping on it, pausing on it, if you print it out, it looks like a picture. It looks like an illustration. It has that sort of integrity where your eye is led through the composition of elements. And you feel like you're looking at something that's actually thought out. It's not just like usual animation, which is sort of just slapped together. All the characters and backgrounds, all the lines are just floating in space. Nothing really ties together. And on Zim, we kind of got that where a lot of stuff flowed into each other. You were pointing people in directions, looking at specifics, and framing characters. This is all very zany stuff. It was nice. We sort of had time to breathe and do things a little bit slower on this episode because the idea was so simple. And I believe, except for the Invader 10 stuff, nothing was cut out of the script. I think this was all... The script was beautiful. It went right through. Everything went fine. Nothing was cut out. Nothing was really edited out. It was good to see Zim out in the world doing stuff, but not getting into anything that was too complex. I'd asked the writers in the as they started up this season to not write crowds and don't do very complex scenarios too much. This scene here was a killer. I remember Chris having problems with that. I came up with the idea of sliding her head into that left side. Sort of works. It was really supposed to be like the perspective is changing as the camera is dollying around the whole set. We used a lot of foreground elements. We were always doing foreground, middle ground, background. And that's something I said when I came onto the series. I would tell everybody, when you do a board, when you do a layout, think foreground, middle ground, background. And I also tried to get in odd perspectives. This is not an odd perspective here. But occasionally you'll see there's like a weird upshot or a downshot. Something to just give a little bit of spice, a little bit something tricky or something worth watching. You can see how nice Chris did with the composition of the chord and the street, the curves versus the straight street, the T. Although there was a certain shot that I always tried to get away from, which Chris is doing a bit in here, which is called a 45 shot, which is what Ian got noted for, which is anytime you do a perspective, and most people do it in the industry, it's a cop-out. Whenever you do a upshot, downshot, everything goes from left to right, from the upper right corner to the lower left corner, or vice versa, so it creates a 45-degree angle. It's almost like a diver down sort of a symbol. Oh, these old people, by the way. And I can't remember his name. That was actually from a movie. We ripped off a movie right there, an old cheap B movie from the late 90s. It wasn't even that old. Jonan just went nuts for that movie. The old people, though, we got a note. That was one of New York's notes. It just was a funny-ass note. They said you can't have the old people look too old. You can't have them look like they're doddering old folks in a home, No knitting, no... I don't know what the problem was, why old people can't be old or do old things. So Chris Graham's idea was dress them in extreme sports clothes and have them, have a guy surfing a wave up in the corner in a picture, have a snowboard in a corner, have skis over there. But yet they're just sitting around watching TV in these clothes. Just a weird sort of a fix. But a humorous one, a very good one. The whole scene there with Gur, the handheld motion thing with Gur, we were going to try to get into that. We wanted to do that all throughout this first season. We never got to it until this episode. We wanted to have a lot more handheld camera shots. It never worked out until then. We just didn't have the time. It was a big hassle because you had to get 3D into it. You had to really finesse the movements. It was something we got from a Japanese anime called Furikuri that we wanted to emulate. It's a pity we never got to do more of it. It was fun stuff. This humor's great. There's always a fault in everything in this show. There's just one minor fault. Gur's running. It was very cute. Very nicely done.